So I'll see how this
Yeah,
is. I don't know if you
I
heard
just
it, but I
started the
was.
recording again. Yeah, keep keep
Oh,
going.
you pressed record. Mine says still recording. Okay, so
Okay,
your
I
choice.
stopped the recording and then I started it. But keep going.
Oh, okay. So it'll be interesting to see how Zoom sets this up when it saves it. So do you remember what I was talking about, Glenn?
Well, we were you fell out a little bit, but we talked
Okay, I'll
about.
bring us back. I was talking about something I wrote called Dear British Columbia Residents, and I'd really love people that will watch this video, part two, to read this and comment on it, because my point is it's been supposedly viewed by 800 people, but I sent it to so many different organizations like the departments of psychology of universities. There's so many politicians and associations of mental health and education, people that get paid to advocate for the things I talked about in here, which was my story. And nobody said anything about it. Nobody wrote comments at all about it. And it's only years later that I had a couple of tiny little comments when I reposted it in a place where people wanted to hear a little bit, so they were in a momentum to comment a little bit. But this was hardly talked about. So I would say if 1,000 people actually went through it, I would say one or two person might have said, oh, that's interesting. That's it. Okay, and that's quite sad, because if the viewers go read it now and they'll say, wow, years were wasted not discussing this, then you'll see that one of the things I say in there is that in my journeys of various personal development courses, including some that charge way too much money just for one or two portions of what I would volunteer teaching life skills lessons regarding, and hearing people's stories and listening, like in a circle or on a microphone, if it's one of those fancy, expensive life skills lessons, is people's stories is that at some point in the past, in their youth, they lost their voice. Somebody shut them up. Somebody said, don't talk about this, or I've heard enough, or you complain too much, or whatever it is. Somebody's been silenced at a time, could be from a parent, from a teacher, that they had something very important to say that was of value to them and that was significant to them. And after that, there's been a life evolving after these moments in our childhoods, where it's still happening to, I would say, the majority of kids. These moments is after that they will start bullying others. They will maybe commit suicide. They'll get into drugs, alcoholism. They will quit school. They will not develop relationships skills. They will not give love a chance. They will isolate themselves. All these major issues is when I've heard these stories and listening, with my counseling skills, is I've pinned it down to everybody having these moments in our youth where we felt we lost our voice.
Hmm.
So this, in a future where the harmony is there in a global society, is all kids around the world, their voices should be very, very heard. And it's interesting that Greta was saying, is this microphone working? Did you hear what I just said? Yes. And then she would say, well, I don't think you did, or it doesn't sound like you did, or your response is incongruent with what I said. It's almost like you think this is bullshit, but it's not. It's true. So give me a congruent answer to what I said, right? She doesn't have that mental illness that the majority has to disconnect from reality in this way. She'll say, this is an inappropriate response from my audience based on what I just said, right? You should all make this big noise, like this super villain blew up in an Avengers movie or something. this is real life, and you're responding more to fiction than your own kid's generation going down the drain. So again, we need to kind of pay more attention to the lessons that we can learn from what the kids have to say about how they're experiencing their lives. And this is before they lose their humanity and they get overly infected with HSD, which is infecting kids at a younger age. And I'm seeing,
Hmm.
I'm seeing a disconnection from reality happening younger. It used to be, I would say maybe 10 years ago, it would happen around 13, 14 years of age. Now I'm seeing it happen between 4 and 7 years old. Kids are already disconnecting. They're becoming incongruent, not connected with reality. They're merging in. And it's not from pressure. It's from just the momentum of the majority being so big. And they're just disconnecting, and they're just want to be, homo communia zombies like the rest of their friends or family members. And it's, they don't even get to actually taste what humanity tastes like at that age anymore. It's already gone. And that's pretty sad for me. So let's get to question 2. Sorry about my internet issues.
Yeah.
Who could help create this harmonious global society, and what thinking tools would be required?
That's a great question. Who can create this? You could probably begin many
Well,
places.
here's one thing. You know how we have these affirmative statements, on our walls or a poster or something, and we think I'm great because I have this that says this or whatever, but I've never applied it in my life. Well, how about the 9 out of 10 nice people in society? Now, because I'm saying a solution, I have to use my practical intelligence now, and I have to do it. So next time we have a talk, you have to see this thing on my wall. Otherwise, I'm just talking to theory. I'm not talking to practice. So you have to see something that I taped here that says something like us telling each other, hey, this is one of those moments where I think I'm encouraging my metapsychology to grow. Or I would say, and Christians would say, what would Jesus do, right? And this is a way to say this in a more scientific way, is I would say, this is one of those moments where I'm faced with knowing what right or wrong is, and to actually choose to do the right thing. And it could be, giving our kid an extra 10 minutes instead of, watching our TV show, or to be stressed with our work and finish preparing for work, or just getting to bed earlier and getting up earlier with our kids that sometimes get up before us for school, something like this. So I'm going to write something on my wall, and this would be a catchphrase that people watching this should now do, or on their fridge or whatever, because that's what I said about Dear BC residents. Put this on your fridges. You talk about this every day. I'm going to put something, and other people would put something that's appropriate to them. Maybe you'll put something on your wall if you go in that room a lot, and I'll see it next time. And it's something like, okay, well, this is one of those thousands of decisions a day, and what am I going to prioritize? And once we start doing this and elevating the metapsychology and putting it into practice, every decision gets easier and with less resistance, and then the world starts changing. So the question is, who could help create this, and what thinking tools would be required? Well, I just suggested something. And who should be the majority? Shouldn't be like one politician or one rich guy that's got billions of dollars. No, it's everybody should now put something that when I'm faced with a difficult choice, business as usual or status quo, is I'm going to say, either Christians could say, what would Jesus do? Or I would say, this is one of those moments for me, Martin, and I'm frustrated, but I still have to role model this. And even though, let's say, people take from me as a friend, they don't offer, whatever, is I am going to make this decision right now. So something to bring about continuing the positive type of solution role modeling. So I'm going to have this on my wall next time. And I'll tell you what it is. And I'll tell you examples of how I used it. Now, talking about these examples in our lives is what I've been trying to get people to do more on the ecology of systems thinking. That's been my strategy. Is I'm saying, oh, what a great message, great, like seminar or workshop you did, but now can you actually show me the next day how you applied some of this? And I'm not saying people don't. I'm just saying we need to see you in the field. We need to hear your story with your kid or with your neighbor or with the decision you made that was a tough choice, you know, because you're not going to make as much money doing this job, but it's better for the planet or whatever it is. I want to hear about this in your lives, because if it's not 9 out of 10 nice people in society that will have a great story about this next time, then we are screwed, Glenn. I don't think we'll get to this harmonious global society. What do you think?
Yeah, well, the and many have already written things on their walls that are pretty solid. So there is a
Hey,
sort
but this
of
is not a picture of somebody else. It's me. Because a lot of these things, they don't say to ask the question to yourself in this way, to stop yourself in this moment. In this moment, I could let my habits flow me and continue business as usual. Or I'm going to say, hey, what if I try to have courage and I will do something slightly different? I'll say, for example, I'm not okay with this to my boss when they keep adding hours and hours or something like that, and I'm home later and later for my kids. What about this before it grows to a big problem? What about this
yeah.
stuff asking myself?
Okay.
Because that's not the sayings you see on the wall. On the wall in people's fancy offices, they'll have an entire workshop on this, but they hardly practice it. Or if they do, it's so uncommon that I could review their life and say, well, there was like 16 more moments during the day that you could have applied this. Did you not realize that was one of those moments? As that's what I'm trying to promote with this thing here. It's not how beautiful or perfect the quote is how we're applying it, and then we're sharing with each other how we're applying it, and how we're observing each other grow and suddenly support each other more. Everybody's getting healthier and happier and losing weight, and there's less stress and quality of life and better connection with their families. And all this stuff will
Hmm.
grow, but we need to do it together. It has to
Yeah.
be the majority. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to talk about it next time.
It has to be, yeah, it has to cover the majority. Yeah, I have
One little
something.
decision at a time.
I have something here which I think is relevant to this, and this is an observation that I've made. It's that all organizations that if you look at their charter, they usually have a value charter of some kind, and on those value charters, you will almost always find there's a value in learning and improving and changing in a positive way. And this is also a value that seems to be supported by almost everybody that I speak to. However, the issue is to actually do it in practice turns out to be difficult. So I want to address this issue by pointing out what I see as the obstacle at the moment, and maybe that obstacle can be turned around and become a possibility. And one of the obstacles I see is that those people who go into the role of challenging the status quo and speaking about what could be changed, they come into a role which becomes dysfunctional because they are then seen as attacking everything that's already here. Uh, for example, you have groups who protest, like the Yellow Vest movement you might have heard about. Typical example. They protest against the injustice, the stupidity of how things are done. Uh, but the way they do it is perceived as an attack on things that already work quite well, relatively speaking. And they are perceived as, and probably it's correct to say that they don't appreciate what already works. They only focus on what's wrong, and they're against everything. And this is a major obstacle. And this dynamic has to change. Uh, it means that the role of the people who want positive change, there has to be a way to do that without attacking what is already here, without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, without being against everything. And that seems to be a very major obstacle.
Well, Glenn, even in scientific theories, some scientists will say that every new theory builds on top of the other, and that's wrong. It's not always the case. More often than not, the right way to do it is to tear it down, and the new one will have a more solid foundation when it's not built on the same kind of flaws. And it's the same thing with things like microwaves were nice, but what if there's a lot of research that shows, oh crap, this is happening to your food, or you're ingesting these kind of plastics too, or whatever? Is why won't people give up the convenience of a microwave? Now, Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever, very popular companies economically, they built countries, but they built it on poison. Now, let's say Coca-Cola, oh crap, this is our mission statement to do this for people, and now the data is overwhelming, like climate change, and our products are good. Well, they're not good, so sometimes they're going to have a few more fruit juices or whatever, but there's still too much sugar, and then they're still using the same kind of packaging, which is not good. So how come we don't totally, or cigarette companies, like if in the United States there's been a lot more companies sued than in Canada, and I believe, and still to have a government say, oh, this is poison, but still sell it, and still the company is like, how do you reinvent your cigarettes and you make them on purpose addictive to these poisons? Now, how do you say, oh crap, what was our mission statement? How did it go for, well, was it ever positive? And can you even change this into a positive? You create like a cigarette that only pollutes people's lungs after they die? Like, wait, like
No, you create a cigarette to make
sense?
people more healthy, of course. It's obvious solution. You create a cigarette to make
in a
people
way,
more healthy.
in a way, there are addictive things about cigarettes that is oral, that is, and that is social interaction. So yes, you can, but then you have to admit, we've been freaking poisoning people. We'd like to totally reinvent to serve the culture. Now, who's going to do this? Nobody's going to do this.
Okay, let's go into that question. Who's going to do it? So, can we imagine social justice activists who are not against the current system, but they are for the current system because the current system has within it the possibility of evolving, as do the current leaders, so that the social activists see themselves as helping the leaders. They don't want to remove the president.
Put this in the scenario of the cigarettes, Glenn, because you're giving this, this preacher kind of answer. And so, for example, when I was a kid, my mom would ask my brother or me to sometimes bicycle to the store to get cigarettes. I don't think my brothers ever said no, but I started saying no, this is bad for you. We all know it. Now, when I said no, guess what? My brother's getting a lot more free chocolate bars or favors or whatever, in my mom's addict's mind, that of course, yeah. So now, even if people don't smoke, and they don't admit they have anxieties or stress management issues, and they have other kinds of addictions, or they just love somebody, or I can't take away cigarettes, my mom, she'll die, or whatever. Now, most people will be contributing to a society that doesn't evolve from this. So that means even if there's some sort of super miracle where this company reinvents their products and it has nothing bad about it, you will get 9 out of 10 people in society who will not support them. So how do we explain this? How do we explain? I told my mom I'm not going to go buy cigarettes for her, but most people will be part of the problem with this.
Well, I have noticed that whenever somebody mentions the possibility of making something far better, there's a resistance against that idea, and it's a resistance that it's maybe not true, it's maybe propaganda, etc. So it sometimes is perceived as advertising or hidden motives. Other times it's perceived as being against everything, the thing I just mentioned. But the question that I really would like to have answered is, could there be a different kind of social activism, which
What do you mean?
something that similar to the business world can focus on possibilities? We might say that in today's society, it is the business world
Okay,
that
but
tends to focus on
what's the
possibilities.
motivator? Is it
And the motivator,
profit?
no, of course not. Quality of life, everyone on the earth, just what we already spoke about. So the motives are a billion times bigger, right?
But who are these people, Glenn, that suddenly do things because it's the right thing to do? I'm telling you, these are not the majority of people. Where are they going to be brought by aliens to this planet? And these are like going to be the ones where they'll have the
no,
owner's manual of how humans should act.
no,
We just follow them.
no, it's the people already here, of course. So it could be you, it could be
Okay,
me.
but why aren't they doing it now? What's happening?
Well, we're in a mess. We're in a disharmonious interaction. That's the problem. And one of the problems is, as mentioned, that those who want to push evolution forward are often jerks, to put it well. They're assholes. They're negative. They're
What do you
complainers.
mean? In what way?
It's the role
Now,
they
when
get
you
into. I'm speaking
are
about the
you talking
social
about
role. I'm talking about the angry
no?
protesters, the role that they get into,
Oh, okay,
even
okay, okay.
though
Yeah.
even though they mean it with the best intentions and they have a very important cause, the problem is that they get into a role where they're against everything, and suddenly evolution becomes this oppositional thing instead of becoming this
So is this an
playful,
example?
iterative, building, beautiful thing. It could be
So
that.
this could be an example, Glenn, from our last conversation where we were saying, well, you know, some memes will evolve bad but some will evolve good. Well, some memes of good intentions maybe evolve badly through, you know, having too much violence on TV or video games with violence, and then these people are frustrated justifiably. I have a yellow vest in my suitcase, and I've had that for years. It has even before I heard of these movements. But I'm worried at the airport people are going to be paranoid and think the wrong thing. So, but the
Yeah.
thing is I've already written years ago that I follow the rule that violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. And I don't believe I'll ever be incompetent enough to practice violence. So it is possible, but when many people's memes and the role modeling they picked up from them has become that this is their only solution, is to tear down something, which is a good thing, but tearing it down doesn't have to be burning it or blowing it up
Yeah, it
or
doesn't
running a
work
bulldozer.
today.
It has to be done by the majority. Yeah,
Yes.
but the
And it
majority
will.
is not is sustaining this
Yes. The
unhealthy
majority is too
structure or
invested. It's too invested in the system. The majority will not listen to the protesters, and they're right not to listen to the protesters if the protesters only focus on
in a way
everything
there's
that's
some
wrong.
think tanks that actually tell the elite that they will self-destruct in their movement by the methods they use. But the thing is if these think tanks actually this is the best they can come up with and they kind of noticed it as it's happening, they're not really smart. So
No, they're not,
here's
because
one
that's
thing
that's
is
a
when I write
loser.
blog, let me finish this,
Yeah.
Glenn, let me
So,
just finish this part. When I talk about my life and how hard it's been, and the depths of despair that I have going through trying to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, and everything I've given up, I've sacrificed to be where I am. Now, some people would be surprised that I didn't commit suicide or I didn't go crazy and do something really bad and violent or criminal. And and instead of asking me, well, what's your thinking tools or how did you evolve your brain that you could deal with this as the minority, if not the only one, in a world where you have the awareness that this is what's happening, and you have the compassion and the caring to want to apply solutions, but nobody else is. Because that's what suffering from species alienation is. It's knowing the true state of the world, is wanting to do the right thing when you get everybody opposing you, and including the people you want to help. So it's a horrible feeling. So how can I be as stable as I am in a conversation like this with you without losing it? And no, I didn't pull all my hair out. It's mostly genetic.
Yeah, well,
and
what's the answer?
So people should be asking me, because if they ask me and then they allow me to role model, show, or I go to you in Norway, we start, applying this Humanix technology program with your friends, and I don't charge money. I just have people appreciate it, and they can give me a place to stay and food, is I'd be role modeling solutions. And I'd be feeling good about it. But right now I'm suffering from species alienation because I'm the only one wanting to apply solutions and role modeling them. Wow. So who could help create this, and what thinking tools would be required? Well, we talked about...
Yeah, it's a good question, but what is the answer?
Well, it's all of us. All of us.
But
and all of us must start. And if people don't know where to begin, start by doing things radically different. And that doesn't mean an extreme of what you think is good to bad, is do things totally different. Totally different.
Okay, but in every evolution...
And you will enjoy it too.
But in every evolution, there's going to be a small group of front runners. And those front runners will bring in something new, and then the whole society will accept this new norm.
You're looking for a miracle solution. Yeah, I don't.
No, I think that's the way. That's the way it happens.
I'm not waiting. No, the way is the majority. The majority must apply change and solutions.
But you're gonna have front runners first, right?
You're talking about the innovation bell curve for paradigm shifts, and sure, but the thing is that's partly we should have. I'd like to say a lot of things about that. We should have a particular discussion about this where we'll show the curve and discuss different parts, and we'll discuss that sometimes laggards, if I'm pronouncing it properly, are actually in the right. The last one, for example, to take up the technology of cell phones, for example, might have more functioning brains than the first ones who started getting cell phones. So there's good and bad, and we need to address this. It's not just about innovation, when innovation is often more counterproductive types of innovation.
I pointed out an obstacle, and that is that the change agents today are ineffective, because either they're going to be commercialized, or they're going to be angry protesters who are against everything. It's very typically they go into one of those camps.
I understand your point, and I agree with your point, but the part you're missing is,
yeah, I mean the people who think way outside of the box. They don't seem to be effective today. And that's what I'm asking. How could they be effective?
Okay, so you're looking for either Jesus or the Avengers to come knock on your door, Glenn. And let me finish let me finish what I'm trying to say. Is the change agent is just a piece of paper you're going to tape on your wall, and it's you and your own mind. That's the change agent. So you shouldn't be expecting miracles from others. We should all be doing it ourselves, and not criticizing those that don't. Just keep role modeling it. Keep more and more people role modeling this, and then we're getting to ride the wave of paradigm shift. Okay. So it starts with us. We are the change engine, and our lives and our suggestions, we know what they are. I've suggested some last time, and I'm suggesting some now. Let's apply them. And if we realize we're not, then finally get out of the denial and say, why are we not applying them? And if we can't answer that, then why don't we at least plan for the end of the human race? If we really care about nature, why can't we just, do it our way? There's more and more people that will be in the coming hard times wanting to apply for assisted suicide. Well, maybe our species should do it. Maybe if it really, it goes through this transformation period, we're going to realize, hey, our DNA is not totally to blame. It's the way we've allowed our culture to evolve out of our control that's reached a point that, hey, I think we should maybe kind of not necessarily do as a species collective suicide, but we should bring our numbers down to less than 1 billion if we really care about this planet. And
Well,
and that's, let's do it our way. Let's not wait for wars and viruses and pollution and radiation and paranoia, or an asteroid or extraterrestrials who value our planet more than we do to come do it for us.
okay,
So
but
where are we? What stage are we of actually acknowledging the power we have in our own lives, but also as a species? And I'm going to have that on my wall, and I'm going to have examples of how I applied this saying and how I stop myself and say, okay, this is me reacting out of feelings or out of momentum or out of frustration or denial. And this is where I took charge and did the right thing with my choice, and how it had an impact on me, my life, and other people and animals and nature and everything, and the future. Because sustainability is always a lot more about the future. And
yeah,
why are we a species that came up with the word sustainability, when sustainability is one way to define life on this planet for billions of years? And we think we're so smart because we invented it. And we invented it because we are actually the ones destabilizing this sustainability.
Yeah, and we're also realizing it and wanting to become stable again. But I just maybe I'll reformulate the question a little bit, because I still feel that this is a crucial issue. Who is going to do it was the question, and what are the thinking tools needed? Well, clearly we need probably some very radical thinking tools, new perspectives, if we're actually going to have a harmonious global civilization. It's never existed before, so completely radically new thinking is needed. But then how can the people who already have these big ideas, which are you and me, just let's keep it really specific, you and me, and many others as well, have these ideas that we discussed in part one. How can we communicate these ideas to, let's say, the 9 out of 10 nice people, as you call them, without that resistance, without coming into the role of the one who is against everything, or the role of the one who wants to sell something, which is two very typical roles that change agents fall into. I'll give another example, and I think you'll know what I mean. I listened to a guy called Eric Weinstein, and he said that if you look at the big breakthroughs of science in thinking, basically, you have, on the one hand, you have a scientific community where they have a lot of social support, a lot of systems in place. The problem there is that you can move really slowly. You have to just, maybe you can slightly improve on a different theory. If you go a little too far, then you're ousted. You're out of the tribe. And then you have others who are sort of totally outside of the academic system, and they have big ideas. They don't have those restrictions. And some of them have developed them very far, but they're also, many of them are, he said, mad. I mean, they often lose their track and often are alienated, as you mentioned as well. So this issue, I think it needs to be solved. We need to find out, how can we have real social activists that can bring big, beautiful, brilliant ideas into society in a way that's received by society, that's received by the
nine. I would like to respond on that, and I guess I will have to on the third conversation. because we're close to our 90 minutes that we had agreed to. And I'm also getting computer attacks right now. My antivirus is kind of telling me there's
Oh,
a few things going on. So
okay.
I'm just going to bring you back to what you said, because, but I can re-listen to it for next time. Is you were saying these radical new ideas or the activists. And one way that I want to say I disagree is reframing it that we are the activists, and that doesn't need to be radical ideas. It just means to act the way we would define humanity, right? It's just a right and wrong of every decision again. So
Well,
whatever you say is, I will give you examples next time, instead of waiting for, why isn't it like this now? Well, it's because we're not creating it right now, and let's just do it, you and me, is again would be my answer right now. Let's
yeah,
just role model, and
that's a good one.
if we don't become the majority, then
I agree.
maybe
That's
that's the
the best.
fate that the human race deserves then,
That's the
right?
best
But
answer
I
for
know that I'm gonna die with a clear conscience and with my health uh, held high, because I will have not been part of the problem, and I'll be quite happy to have achieved that second major life goal after becoming human up here, which took me a lot more years than it should have because of the environments that I lived in. So now, Glenn, we are supposed to finish by just talking a little bit about next time. And what I wanted to do even before the first talk, and I admit to my own procrastination on here, because there's so many words, but I want to at least have maybe 10 words defined, that we will continue to use, but also just say, when I use this word, I mean it this way. And it's evolving into a different way, which I disagree with. Let's not let this word be hijacked by memetics. And so I would like to define things more so that people can get these ideas and put them together, because people might hear this and they only know about 7 of these themes or topics we're talking about. The other 3 they don't know where to fit them. So I think we should define things more, and we should also open more encouragement for people to write comments about our conversations that we will try to keep at 90 minutes, is what I think.
Yeah.
And the comments could be agree, disagree, talk about this more next time, or examples from their lives. Again, I don't want to have people say negative stuff like on Facebook, where no, you're dreaming, just do like this and you'll achieve your goal. Well, my goal is not just to get a job. That's what a worker bee zombie does. My goal is to get a job where I can make the world a better place. Otherwise, I'd rather stay poor. So people don't get this. They really think I'm just saying it. Even though I'm living the life and they've known me living the life for more than a year, they still don't understand that paradigm exists and I'm living it. And they really cannot relate to this, right? So we need to define and give examples. And if people put comments, well, I had this choice to make in my life, and I made this choice, and it was hard, and I lost a few friends, and a few family members don't talk to me, but now my kids and I grow our own food in the backyards, or my kids seem to be able to solve more problem than their friends do, but they're homeschooled, whatever it is, give stories and just say, explore these ideas more, talk about this more, or things like that, and encourage us by telling us maybe other things that you would suggest as discussions for next time. Or I want to
Yeah.
hear more about that part. It's the first time I hear something about this. Martin or Glenn, is you talked about this in this way. Can you give an example? And that's what it's about. It's about our own individual lives. And because really, a government doesn't exist, a country doesn't exist. Most organizations or institutions that people allow to indirectly manage their lives don't exist. What exists is people making thousands of decisions a day. And,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and a lot of those decisions are, I agree or I don't agree. And my response is role modeling this or not role modeling this. And this is where our power lies.
Oh yes.
And it's not about voting once every 4 years for the lesser of multiple evils. It's about the power we have to make the choices. I'm going yay or nay at this particular microsecond stage of my life. And this is the examples I want to hear in people's comments.
Yeah, great. I think we have arrived at certainly a common understanding in
Oh,
the,
good, because I'm really hungry. Oh my God, there was
yeah.
this smell, this awesome smell coming through my window. And I discovered recently, Glenn, I'm sorry I'm cutting you off, but I'll get back to you, is I discovered that if this eating based on our blood type thing is true, that I'm still investigating because I'm finally reading some of that literature for the first time, is I need to eat more meat. My blood type, I need to eat a lot more meat, and I've been promising to eat less, but you know, I have to maybe make choices of where at least these meat sources come from, and also you know, to in a way, in a way, I think I live my life in a way to compensate, but there's no alternative for me based on this blood type. It looks like that meat for me is an important part of meat protein. You know, I can get protein of other things, but for me it's important. And I've been kind of conflicted with this. And it's
Hmm.
like, is this an addiction? I don't know. I don't think I have an addiction to meat, but why does the idea of giving up meat sound so hard to me? And it could be that my metabolism is telling me something that, you know, I hadn't read the book to know about. And my doctor doesn't talk about this. Most doctors, they, you know, they'll have silly things like lactose intolerant tests, or wheat, you know, related
Hmm.
allergies, or carbohydrates, or whatever it might be, and they more or less believe in this, you know. But the thing is people are all unique, and what is healthy for one person could be more poisonous in the long term for somebody else. And I have to learn these things. And meat
Yeah.
for
So,
me, it's sad, but it is kind of thing. It is kind of for me an important part of the diet. Now, again, you were going to say how to close our conversation today.
yeah, yeah. I just wanted to say that we do seem to have come upon an understanding that um, the essential issue is people and our being, minds, behaviors, actions. This is what is the issue. It's the essential issue, and it's where change will happen. And as you say, we can be role models, so we can model a new way of being, a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing reality, and that's what I'm trying to do in these conversations. So what seems to be the big
But not
question, not just here but also here, yeah. The big question,
for
of
me,
course.
it's one decision at a time. Yeah, because even if you say the powers within us change our lives, reinvent, you know, if we use big words, reinvent, totally different, blah, blah, it's scary. It's just one decision at a time. And it's not manipulative. It's actually the truth. The truth is change comes one decision at a time. And
Yeah,
and
yeah,
uh, and the power of this one decision, if we're alive, is always ours. And that's all we need to focus on, one decision at a time. The big thing that we want, that we think is unattainable, but we want to believe in it, and we kind of dissipate the responsibility out of our lives because of it, because it seems so huge. It's just a form of denial again. It's one decision at a time in our own individual lives. And
yes.
not even to force it on their kid. Just role model it to your kid. Your kid will naturally just pick it up naturally. You don't need to force a course on them on this, you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And for example, I intuitively feel that a good decision is to speak about what a good world would be, and to nurture those conversations, which we touched upon today. And then so that could be an example of role modeling, which could make a difference. Um, but it's obviously a big question. So it's many
But put the
decisions.
practical stuff in it. I like you
Well,
have the glass half full, but put the practical stuff. Put it how it's achievable based on our behaviors instead of just the dream.
well,
It's the
yeah,
dream that starts right
the behaviors is to speak about the dream. That's the behaviors. It's a part of the behavior to
Yeah,
speak
but give an
about it.
example.
Yeah,
Give an
example.
example of during your day. For example, my neighbor did this and I could have responded this way or this way, but I did this. It was more neighborly. Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
an example of a decision you made and a behavior you had in that day.
That could be yeah, that could be. So yeah, let's encourage people to share some stories if they have some examples. That would be really valuable for the comments. If anyone has any examples of behaviors that they've seen or that they've been doing themselves.
Especially the hard ones. They're inspirational, the hard ones, because some decisions is really a harder one. I mean, it's not hard to know what the right or wrong is. It's to actually apply the right. Those
Yeah,
are like when somebody does this, I cry every time I hear or see this, even if it's a fictional movie not based on real life. For me, these are the most touching human moments. And there
yeah,
needs to be no special effects in movies like this. It just needs to be a storyline related to this.
yeah, yeah,
Even
absolutely.
a cartoon. Cartoons, I'm afraid it happens a lot in cartoons. Like, like you're talking about Cars, or that I watched a part of recently, or what's it called, the Panda, Kung Fu Panda. Oh man, I'll be crying, for these things that I have to cut it in a few sections watching a movie. Now people would
Yeah,
say you're a wuss. Well, I think a lot of people, including police officers, are pretty intimidated by me. So I think they know I'm not a wuss. But that's a form of human intelligence, the emotional part of knowing that it's okay and when it's a good time or not and when it's normal or not. Like I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't worry about this. I have the confidence to know that it's normal that I cry with a cartoon with a moment that touched me.
yeah.
And
That's
it's normal for me to talk about it and to share it. And to also say that I wish I had somebody to have watched this movie and cry with me, somebody special in my life like this. And
yeah,
whether they're an adult or a child to watch this movie with me is, I miss that. I'm a social creature, but doesn't mean that I'll avoid the movie. Well, I do avoid certain things I wish I was doing with others, but I I know it's normal for me to do this, and I don't want to get away from it. I'm not saving living the life of a human until I have a girlfriend or a best friend or a
no,
family
exactly.
or whatever.
That's the
Is I
point.
have to keep doing it
You just have to begin
now.
where you are, right? You can
I'll
only,
be human when I die. I'm too busy now. I gotta pay my
yeah,
credit card.
exactly. Yeah, small choices, one step at a time. That's definitely the thing. Yeah, this was great. I think we've rounded 90 minutes, even a little more.
I
So,
apologize for my internet issues. I think they were on my end, and it's been jumping about.
yeah,
Sometimes.
and that's one thing I definitely want to see in a more harmonious world is technology that actually works and isn't so unstable because that actually is a major disruption
Yeah,
when
but
that
I don't blame technology here because technology is, the quality of what humans put in it. So again, it's
yeah,
what we value.
it
Um,
begins with
yeah,
us and behaviors and choices. Definitely, that seems like a very
I,
clear
I'm
understanding.
glad. I'm glad I didn't put a shirt as well for this second talk. So now I have set a precedent. Martin never needs to wear a collared shirt or a tie or anything. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. But anyone who's watched it, please come with comments, tell some stories, examples, whatever you want.
And I will post either the document in PDF or a better film video of this dear British Columbia resident. And I'd love to have people tell me what they got out of it, how it reminded them of a part of their life or whatever they identified with. I would like to put that link or that PDF on both of our postings.
And just before we end, can I come with a suggestion that we put the second video into the same threads as the ones we've already done? So we can have a big thread that can continue and we can add more and more stuff to it. And people will engage when they feel like it. But
I'm not
that
sure what you mean, but I'm going to learn about it later when you explain or demonstrate what you mean.
yeah, I just basically mean that I think I'll put this video into the same thread on Facebook where we share the first video. So you get the first video and the second video in the same thread. And you can also have the Dennett video, several others. We can share links there and we can have comments. So you basically have one place where you can collect these ideas and where you can keep the conversation alive, basically.
Okay.
So
No problem, Glenn.
yeah.
I'm going to count down for my stopping my recording because I believe mine continued as well, even though my internet was disconnecting. So I'm cutting off, Glenn.
Okay.
Thank you again from Japan on a day with a new emperor. And 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.